1 in 6 adults has a mental illness.
And we face a stigma that can be as painful as the disease itself.
Change a mind about mental illness, and you can change a life.
Say what you need to say. Say what you need to say. Say what you need to say.
What are you diagnosed with?
I am diagnosed with cyclothymic disorder, which is a type of bipolar. So basically I have all the classic symptoms of bipolar disorder, just on a smaller scale. So I have hypomanic episodes, they're called, which are the upswings. So I spend a lot of money and I talk really fast and I don't sleep and I get really hyper. Those episodes can last anywhere from a couple hours to a couple weeks. The other side of it is the depressive episodes, which are just a smaller scale than, like a regular bipolar disorder, like type 1 or type 2. So I have, my depressive episodes can last anywhere, from a couple hours to a couple weeks. My mood is really low, my energy level is really low, I feel totally hopeless, I feel like I'm never going to be happy again, and I've never ever been happy. And it cycles between the two. I do have periods without mood swings, but the biggest difference between cyclothymic disorder and bipolar types 1 and 2 are that it's just a little bit milder. I am also diagnosed with an eating disorder that most closely resembles anorexia.
Have you ever been stigmatized because of your disorder?
Yes. Recently, a couple months ago, one of the kids I go to school with, who I've always talked to and been friendly with, but not necessarily like close friends with, found out that I was mentally ill, and for a couple weeks treated me very differently. Talked to me less, was more reserved around me. It went back to normal eventually, but I did notice that shift in his behavior towards me. My friends do it actually sometimes. Last year I made some bad choices and I ended up hurting a lot of people. And people make excuses for me, like Sierra didn't know what she was doing, she was sick. They're always angry with the other people involved and never angry with me, even though I hold just as much blame, and the reason that they say that, Sierra's sick, she didn't know what she was doing, when that's not the case. The most serious case of it, there was a girl I knew, and she didn't like me before she knew I was sick. And we had a mutual friend, and we thought that maybe this girl would, since she had similar issues, would understand what I was going through and maybe, treat me better if she knew what I was experiencing, because she experienced a lot of the same things. So we told her, and her initial reaction was, oh, I hate her more because of it. And so she used my cyclothymic disorder as a reason to hate me, and that really hurt, that she thought that was okay.
When I first found out that I had some mental health problems, I told a few of my close friends, and somehow it all got out around my year at school. I was only about 15 at the time, and half the people sort of turned around and said, oh, she's lying to get attention, she doesn't seem mentally ill. And the other half of the people just turned around and said, well, she's too dangerous to be in school, we can't talk to her. So either way, I was quite alienated.
How does the stigma of mental illness affect who and how much you tell?
The stigma is probably the biggest factor in who I tell and how much detail I go into. I can usually guess by somebody's personality how they're going to take it, whether they're going to baby me and be super cautious around me because of it, or whether they're going to be, just not talk to me. I worry a lot about college and sharing that with people because I want to be treated differently. As far as who knows, before today I usually only told, my family knows. Not all of my family, but a good portion of my family knows. All of my close friends know. I'm a lot more open with my anorexia than I am with my bipolar disorder, because anorexia is, and this is weird to say but it's true, a more socially acceptable illness. It's something that people don't necessarily treat you really differently if you struggle with an eating disorder versus something more, something like bipolar. I used to be a little bit more open about it and a little bit more okay with talking about it, but last October, my best friend, who had been helping me through the whole thing, he ended our friendship, and he told me I was too sick and that he couldn't do it anymore. And so now sometimes I say I'm not sick, or I don't want to tell people, or the biggest I play down how hard it is, because I don't want to lose somebody like I lost him over something that I can't control. So that's stigma, and the way people react to mental illness, even if they aren't prejudiced against it, is a huge factor in my life.
Mental illness covers a whole range of things, just like physical illness does. But when we have a broken arm or something like that, we go, look at my broken arm, sign my cast. If we've got depression, we don't say, oh, I've got depression, you know, do you want to talk to me? We don't talk about it at all. We just keep it all in, and keeping it all in is the reason that it gets worse.
Maybe it's time to change, and people are people, so just because you've got a problem doesn't mean they're any different.
There's a lot of ignorance out there, so just talking about it to anybody, it really does help a little bit.
How do you think we could break the stigma?
Education is always the answer to ignorance. So getting out there and talking about it, being open about it, acknowledging that this is what's going on in millions of people's lives across the world. So just talking about it and educating people about it are really the two big things that will shatter the stigma.
I don't rent to psychos.
Wacko. Nut job.
I can't work with him. He's a lunatic.
Stay away from her. She's crazy.
Yeah.
People with mental illness get called a lot of mean names. Considering 1 out of 5 Americans experience some form of mental illness, we might have some more appropriate names to suggest. To learn more, call this number or visit this website today.
Is there anything you think people should know about mental illness?
If somebody who's watching this didn't know before they saw this video that I struggle with mental illness, I want you to think of me in the exact same way you did before. I am the same person. And the biggest piece is, you know, throughout history, people with mental illness have been treated as subhuman, and I am just as human as you are. I feel everything that you feel. I cry, I laugh, I feel happy, I fall in love, I get my heart broken. You know, I have my favorite music and my favorite foods, just like you do. I experience some emotions maybe more strongly, you know, and maybe a little less in control of how I feel and how I respond to those feelings. But I deserve to be treated just like everyone else.
If you or a loved one is suffering from a mental health problem today, you can get help by visiting www.nami.org.